Hello, everyone. So today, the lesson that we would be covering in Java is reading user inputs. What are the different ways, how you can read the user inputs that's from the standard input from the keyboard. So there are several ways in Java that you can accomplish it. And we are going to use a couple of ways that are most relevant and see how you can accept standard user inputs. So let's get started. So we will be understanding, as you can see on my screen, so we will be covering the reading user inputs in Java. We would be understanding the two main ways for reading the user input. One is using the scanner class, and another one is using the console input method. So we will be seeing both, and then we will be comparing which one is better and which approach to follow. So yes, so the lesson objective for today's lesson would be to learn how to read the user input in Java. We would understand what is a scanner class in Java, and how do you use the scanner object to read the user input. And then we are going to explore something called system.console.readline for reading the inputs in Java, as this one is another way. And then we will implement input handling for different data types. We will see what you can do when you have to take inputs that belongs to different data types. So Java provides multiple ways to read user inputs, right? Each method has its own use case, its own advantages, and its own drawback. So we will little deep dive into that. So primarily the main ways to read user input is, one is, as we mentioned, one is using the scanner class. So it can read input from the console from any IDE. And then another way is to use system.console.readline. So it can read text input interactively. But the main limitation of using the system.console.readline is it works fine when we are reading the inputs directly from a terminal or a console. It may not work with some of the IDEs. Some of the IDE like VS Code and all, it works fine. But some of the IDE like IntelliJ and Eclipse, it may cause some issues while reading the user inputs. We will deep dive more into it. So let's see what is a scanner class and how can we use a scanner class and a scanner, how we create a scanner object, and what are the methods of the scanner class that we can use to read the user input. So the scanner class, it's like an inbuilt class of Java, and it provides a simple way to read the user input. Now, the biggest advantage of scanner class is like you can read different types of input, the input of different data types. Like you can read the input that has an integer data type, that has a float data type, that has a double data type, or that has like a string data type, right? So whatever input is coming from the keyboard, it can parse and it can auto convert it into the different data type. And then you have, so scanner class is an inbuilt class in Java. So how does it work? We first create a scanner object, and then we use those inbuilt methods of the scanner class. So when we are reading the user inputs for different data types, there are different methods like read int or read float, or read next int, read next float, read next double. So depending on what is the data type of the user input. Then there's another method that belongs to the scanner class called next line. So the next line method is used to read the full line input or the string inputs, right? And so this is an example of how to read user input using the scanner class. So let's go through this code line by line so to understand better, and then we jump to VS Code and we run it by ourselves, right? So as I said, the first line, import java.util.scanner. As I said, scanner is a class. It's an inbuilt class provided by Java. So in order to use this scanner class, it belongs to a package. So all the Java classes, it belongs to a certain package. Whenever you work with Java, you need to import that package. So this scanner class, it belongs to java.util package. Then, so first you import, and then we are just like creating a class, scanner example. We added a main method, and then this is in this line, we are creating scanner equals to new scanner system.in. So this is an important line to understand. So here we are creating a scanner object. I mean, as this is the first, it's a this lesson is at a very initial stage of your course. So you may not have learned the object creation, how to create an objects of classes. So do not worry. We are going to deep dive and you will learn about how to create an object that belongs to certain class. But just like in a nutshell, this is scanner, then scanner. This scanner is the name of the object, the scanner with small s. So scanner equals to new scanner system.in. So it will create, this line will create a scanner object that will accept the user input, or that will read the user input from the standard input. System.in is the standard input. So standard input is always your keyboard. And then, so once we have the scanner object, so then we are good to go and we are ready to read the inputs. So enter, so next is just like a print statement, enter your full name. And then we created a variable of string data type because the input that we are going to read is of string data type. So scanner dot next line. So as I said, the scanner class, it has a lot of methods: next line, next in, next float, next double. So scanner dot next line, because we are going to read the full name, right? That is a group of strings or group of words. Now next is like enter your age. So this here we will use the inbuilt methods scanner.nextInt because we are reading the input that belongs to an integer data type, and then we are storing the input that we just read into a variable age that belongs to an integer data type. Then enter your height in meters. Then here we are reading input that is of a double data type. So then we are using next double method of scanner class, and then we are storing it in a variable called height that is of double data type. And then we are just printing the name and the value, right? The last line is quite important because scanner is like kind of a resource that you open. Okay, and then you keep on accepting reading the user inputs through the keyboard, through the standard input stream. So it's a kind of a stream, a resource that's open. So we need to close this resource. It's a good programming practice. So scanner.close. So it will prevent the resource leak. So we close the resource once we are done with reading all the user inputs. Okay. So before going on to next slide, let's jump to VS Code and let's create a new class. Java file class, and we can give it any name like scanner input demo.java. Sorry, you don't need to give .java, just scanner input demo, and it will create a Java class here, right? Oh, I'm not going to create because we have not covered the package concept. So I will just create it under SRC. scanner input demo.java. Right? So now we have a scanner input here, and then what we'll do, the first thing, we will add the main method. You all remember, right? The main method is like the entry point to every Java program. Okay, so once you have the main method, you can see the run and the debug. That means you can run your program. So after that, what I'll do is first I will create a scanner object. So this is what I need in order to read the user input. So this scanner is the name of the Java class, right? And the scanner with a small s is the name of the object. Scanner equals to new scanner. So all this you're going to learn in the next tutorial, in the next lesson when you will learn about classes and objects. But just remember, like few things, this new keyword will create an object for this class. So new scanner will create an object and it will store it in this scanner, in this reference variable. And here we will say system.in. So this indicates that we are reading the user input from the standard console, from the standard input, that is your keyboard. Now it is showing me a red line here. The compiler is complaining because, as I told you, the scanner is a class in Java, an inbuilt class. So it belongs to a package. So then we need to import that package. Import java.util.scanner, right? So once you import the package, so then the red lines will disappear and it has stopped complaining. Now, as now we have a scanner object, right? So now we can start reading the user input. So let's first read the name, enter your full name. So because this name input will belong to a string data type, so we are just like creating a variable string name equals to, we will use the object scanner dot next line method of the scanner class, right? So next line, using the next line method, we can read the input that belongs to string data type. Next, the same thing, print your age. So print your age. Of course, the input that we read will be of integer data type. So I've created a variable age that is of integer data type. Int age equals to scanner dot read, scanner dot next int. Okay, so this is the method you use to read a integer input value. Then say sysout anything like enter your height in meters. Okay, and then maybe, so let's assume, so this input will be of a double or a float data type. So then we can say double height equals to scanner dot next double. Okay. So we have read all different kind of user input that belongs to different data type using the particular methods of the scanner class that is appropriate to read the input of that respective data type. So now we are going to just print name is plus name, right? And age is, and caps lock is on, age is plus the age variable, and then what was the next thing? Height. So height is plus height. Okay. So this is how we use the scanner object and the inbuilt methods of the scanner class, depending on what data type you're reading. And now I think we are good to go. So let's run it. So you just click on the run button here. So enter your full name. Say Susan Smith. Enter your age. Enter your height. I have no idea. I'm just going to like randomly say 5.5. Okay. So name is Susan Smith, age is 35, and height is something, something, super random value. So this was how we use the scanner class, right? The scanner object to read the user input. Uh, the the advantage of using the scanner classes, you can read user input of different data types. You don't need to parse or convert the input into a different data type manually. And then it works with every IDE, whether you are using IntelliJ or you are using Eclipse or you're using VS Code or from the terminal. It works well in all the scenarios. So now let's go back to our slides. And so this is what we saw now, right? This is also something very similar, like the next slide. We imported the scanner class. We imported the java.util package in the scanner class. And then we just created a scanner object using scanner equals to new scanner system.in represents the standard input. That is the keyboard. And then enter your name. And we are using the next line method of the scanner class and using the object here, scanner.nextLine. Then enter age. So scanner.nextInt to accept uh, a reader input that belongs to an integer data type. And then sometimes it's good to do this like scanner.nextLine. So it will be like sometimes when you are reading a lot of user inputs, sometimes you feel that, it's kind of blocked the stream, or it needs to be like kind of flushed out it's ready to accept another input. So then you can just write scanner.nextLine. So then scanner.nextLine, it will consume new line leftover. Okay, it will just flush out the stream and ready for the next input. And then enter your, say, favorite quote. So again, the quote will be a string. So string quote is scanner.nextLine. Okay. And then it is printing all the values, and then remember to close, scanner.close. I think in our last VS Code example, I forgot to close the scanner resource. But when you all practice, please remember to close it. Okay. Now, let's look at another way to read the user input. Okay, as mentioned, as discussed, another way to read the user input in Java is using system.console.readLine. Now, there are two kind of drawbacks to this approach. One, it works fine when when the user input is coming from the terminal or the console directly, like from from your CMD command prompt or your bash terminal. So when it is coming from console-based applications, it's working fine, right? But it may not work, or it may give you problem when you're working with certain IDEs, because it works only in real terminals. So when you, as long as if you're on Windows, you're using command prompt, or or on Mac, you're using the terminal, the bash, so it will work fine. But in certain IDEs, especially I think if you're using Eclipse and IntelliJ, it doesn't work properly. VS Code, it's still fine, but not in some IDE consoles. And then second is system.console.readline only can, the user input it can read is a string. So then, but what if, now the next question is, what if you are accepting user input that's an integer or double? So in that case, what you need to do is you need to parse it. You need to convert it, okay, manually. So that is also another kind of limitation, that you cannot work with different data types. So this is one sample code. So let's understand it line by line, and then we can just jump to VS Code to run it. So here we have just created like a Java class, console input example. We added a main. Okay, always remember this is the signature of main. Very, very important. Public static void main string args. This is the standard signature of the main method. This is the entry point of the Java program. So first, when we are working with the system.console, it's a very good practice to check if system.console is not null. Because if you're working with certain IDEs where you are, if you're working with certain IDEs where uh, which doesn't support system.console.readline, or where system.console.readline doesn't work in certain IDEs, then it is going to return a null. So if you're not sure if system.console works well with the ID that you are using, it is always like a good practice to first check if it is returning null or no. If it is not returning null, that means that you are good to go, and you can, if it's not equal to null. So if it's not returning null, that means you're good to go, and it can accept you can go ahead with reading the user input. But if it is returning null, then please know that this system.console will not work in your environment or IDE, because it primarily it works very well with the direct terminal or console based inputs. Okay, so let's jump to VS Code. Yeah, so this is system.console not equal to null. So this is how you like this is how the syntax is. So system.console.readline, enter your name. So the prompt you write within as a parameter to this readline method. Because earlier with the scanner object, first you were prompting with this sysout, like system.prompt.read, system.prompt.println, enter your name, that's scanner.next line. So you're reading the user input. But here you don't have to write a prompt separately. You just say system.console.readline, and whatever is your prompt you give as a parameter to readline method. And because it can only accept the string, so of course we are creating like a string variable name, and we are accepting the string input. But if it was not, if we are trying to read a user input that belongs to an integer data type or double data type, then it has to be parsed. Parse means then it has to be converted, because first this read line will only accept the input as a string. So once you have that string, then you need to convert it or parse it into the respective data type that you need. Okay, so let's jump to VS Code, and we did the scanner, and then let's create another class, console input console input. Okay. So then we have a Java class. So what is the next thing? So no imports are needed with the console.system.console.readline. Okay. And then next is enter the main method. Please remember, do not click on the first, click on the second, public static void main. This is the signature of the main method. So you will see a run and a debug. Okay. So now how do we work with the How do we work? We first check, okay, if this system dot console not equals to null. Okay. So not equals to, if this is not equals to null, then we know that whatever ID we are using, it will support the system.console. Okay. So if it is not equal to null, then we will declare a variable of string data type, and then we say system dot console dot read line. Okay, and here we give the prompt, enter your name, right? And then, right? And then we can just print. Name is, right, plus name, right? And if it returns a null, else you can just print a message like an error message, because system.console won't work in your IDE. Okay, console not available in this environment. Console is not, or any message that you want, available in this environment, right? And yeah, that's it. So I think this is good to go. Let's run it. So here it's enter your name, Susan. Okay, so the name is Susan. So it didn't give me the prompt because I'm using VS Code, and system.console.readline works fine with VS Code. But if you're on a Eclipse or IntelliJ or any other IDE, and if you're not using a direct input from the console or terminal, it's a good idea to always check if it's returning a null. We can also do something like this, int age equals to integer dot parsen system dot console dot read line enter your age. System.console without parenthesis. Okay, and then we can say, I'll explain it. Let's first, age is, okay, and then age, right? So I'll explain it shortly. Let's first run it and then see if it runs, then I'll explain it. So let's clear the terminal and run it. Okay. Enter your age. Okay. So name is Susan, age is 34. But now age is 34. This is integer. It's not a string. So this is where the parsing is happening. Okay. So first, like this is straightforward. First, if I check for the console and if it is like not null, I just use system.console.readline and I read the user input and that's a string and I stored it in the name variable. Now my next thing is I wanted to read the user input, which is age, and age is integer, right? But if I'm using system.console.readline, there the limitation is we can only read the string, right? It doesn't, the user input, it doesn't read the user input as integer or different data types like double or whatever. So then we have to parse. Parse is like converting. So once you have a value that belongs to a specific data type, you can convert it into a different data type. So for that, we just covered like wrapper class in the last session, right? So here there is a function called parse int. Okay, parse int, parse means conversion. So parse int means it will convert a value that is of a string data type to an integer, right? And this method, parse.int, it belongs to which wrapper class? Integer. We discussed wrapper class in the last lesson, right? So for every primitive data type like int, there is a or double or say float or so there is a respective wrapper class, right? So that wrapper class for int is int. So this is a wrapper class integer and it has an inbuilt method called parseInt and it will only accept, so this is the parameter passing. So here we are accepting a user input from the console. So the user input that we are accepting is using the console.read line. So it will be a string. So though you are entering, say 34, but 34 is a string. It's not like an integer. It's not numeric. So first it is accepting a string and then this parseInt method is going to convert that string value into an integer and then it is going to store it into a int variable. Okay. So this is how you have, so this parsing methods also you're going to see more in details in the upcoming lessons. But remember, if you want to parse or convert a string input into another data type, you have these parse methods. So there's parse int, there is parse double, there is parse float. Okay, there's parse. So these are the parsing methods you need to use to manually convert a string value into that respective data types, right? So let's switch back to our slides. So we just saw this, but I think this example doesn't include parsing, but your notes or your lesson content includes parsing. So this is what we just executed right now. First is we should always check system.console should not be null. So it is supported by your environment. And if it is not null, then this is the syntax, how you read the user input. And then if you need to parse it, you need to use those wrapper class inbuilt methods like integer.parseInt or double.parseDouble or float.parseFloat, right? So this is like a short comparison of these two different input methods. One is scanner class and system.console. So scanner class, it works in all the IDEs, yes. System.console, no, it doesn't work in most of the IDs. It works in very few IDs. It works best with the direct input from the console or the terminal. Scanner class, it can read different data types, yes, but it can. System.console.readline can only read string. It is suitable for interactive apps, yes. Both scanner and system.console suitable for interactive apps. Scanner requires an import. As we saw, scanner is an inbuilt Java class that belongs to a java.util package. So you have to import this class. So you have to import the whole package java.util.scanner, while system.console.readline doesn't include any import. So important best practices, always close the scanner objects to prevent memory leaks. So use scanner.close. Handle exception properly when reading numeric values. So you will read, so what this statement means that sometimes when you are using like integer.parseInt, so and you are expecting age, like a numeric entry, but what if the user ends up entering something like XYZ? It's not a numeric entry, right? So how it can be parsed from a string into an integer? So that time it will throw a numeric exception or a mismatch input mismatch exception. So we have to handle this exception properly. Exception handling is a altogether separate lesson that we are going to cover later. Use scanner dot next line after scanner dot next in to avoid input issues. So as I said, sometimes you just need to use standalone scanner dot next line, because sometimes the stream is like choco blocked, and to just flush out and accept the next input, reader input, it's good to use scanner dot next line. Ensure system.console is available before using it. So you need to use that null check. Okay, you need to do that null check. If it returns the null, that means it's not supported by the environment. So there's no point using system.console. Otherwise, it will just throw a null pointer exception and your program may crash. So these are some best practices for using the user input. So yeah, guys, this is all regarding the different ways you can accept the you can read user inputs in Java using the scanner or the console.system.readline. So see you. I hope you all enjoyed this lesson. So see you in the next video and the next Java lesson. Thank you. Bye-bye.